What's going on, guys? This is Wyatt, Vaughn with the New Orleans Junior Journalism Program. I'm here with,
Phillip.
and we are back talking some Saints football. The season has officially come to an end, Phil.
That's tough.
Before we start, quick thoughts on the season. How did you feel the Saints did this year?
I think the Saints did awesome this season. Even though they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, I think they did a good job managing to make it to the playoffs and the NFC Championship, and which they failed to win against the Rams.
Yeah, as a Saints fan, I think all of Who Dat Nation is extremely proud of our team. Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, the whole gang. We're extremely proud of what they did. Obviously, we probably think they should be in the Super Bowl, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So Saints weren't the only team that played this weekend. The Patriots and the Chiefs also played. The Patriots won, which sets up for a Rams-Patriots Super Bowl. So two great games this weekend. Both went to overtime. First time that's ever happened in conference championships. What are your biggest takeaways from this weekend, Phil?
Biggest takeaways. One takeaway I have is from the Saints versus Rams game is the referee takeaway off a obvious missed PI penalty, pass interference penalty. And another takeaway from the Chiefs versus Patriots game, the overtime rules, which Patrick Mahomes didn't get a chance to get the ball in overtime. And obviously, if you were watching a game, you know whoever gets the ball first in overtime would have scored and won the game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the overtime thing. I mean, that game was going back and forth, back and forth. I mean, you thought maybe when the Patriots had taken the lead with just about 40 seconds left, the Chiefs had one timeout, 39 seconds. You thought there's no way Patrick Mahomes can do this, but he did it. He led their team down, got a field goal at the end just to get him to overtime. And then it's kind of sad to see that he does all of this work, comes back from a lackluster first half and doesn't even get to see the ball, and that's how his season ends. So I definitely agree with you. The overtime system needs to be changed. But my takeaways from this weekend, number one, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. It's not close. I mean, he is now 41 years of age and is now going to his third straight Super Bowl.
Yes, another Super Bowl.
It is ridiculous what he is doing, comparable to LeBron James in the NBA. Yeah. And, I mean, people doubted him all year. Some of us doubted him. I didn't pick the Patriots last week. I didn't pick the Patriots to win the divisional round. I mean, what he's done is incredible.
Yeah, he's became the underdog this playoffs because nobody thought the Patriots would go back to the Super Bowl based on he played in the regular season. But in the playoffs, Tom Brady, he flipped the switch and they became he certified his GOAT.
Yeah, and that was my first takeaway. My second takeaway, the AFC Championship game, which was the Patriots versus the Chiefs, was a matchup of the two best quarterbacks in the entire league. And I know some people, especially in New Orleans, aren't going to agree with that. But right now, I don't think there's any argument that can be made that Tom Brady's not the number one quarterback. And I think when you look at what Patrick Mahomes has done, I think he has just put up insane numbers, just crazy stuff for him. I think he is easily the second best quarterback. And I know you want to argue with that, but let's get to a comment real quick. From Chris Taylor, our co-host, who we are missing today, do you all feel that now that Kansas City has released their defensive coordinator, will they be able to go to the Super Bowl next year? And I'm going to go first on this because I've talked about the Chiefs' defense a lot this year, mostly in terms of the MVP race. But when you look at the Chiefs' defense, they really have a lot of good players. It's not the talent that they don't have. They have, Eric Berry, Breland Speaks, D Ford, Justin Houston, Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, Reggie Ragland, Anthony Hitchens. They've got great players. They just haven't been able to put it together. And in every game they've lost, it has really been their defense that has let them down. So I think if they can bring in a defensive coordinator that can find the right mixture of that talent, I think that is a mixture for them to maybe dethrone the Patriots next year. So did you have any doubts of my best two quarterbacks?
The best two quarterbacks? I got to doubt you. I agree with you on the first one, Tom Brady, but the second one, I still got to keep it to Drew Brees. He's the all-time passing leader in history, and Drew Brees is the second greatest quarterback. He showed that this season why he's the second greatest quarterback.
Well, you mentioned the career passing yards. I don't think you can argue that since he's the all-time passing yard leader, he's a better quarterback right now. I think that's more of a legacy thing. And don't get me wrong, that is one of the greatest accomplishments a quarterback has ever held. But I don't think that can be argued towards this right now, who is a better quarterback. And I think when you look at what Patrick Mahomes had to deal with, a worse supporting cast around him, offense and defense, and led them to the same fate as the Saints, I just think it's clearly Patrick Mahomes.
No, I don't agree with you. I would put Patrick Mahomes as my the third best quarterback, but I would have to put Drew Brees as second best quarterback as what he accomplished this season and throughout his career.
So you keep saying accomplished this season. What did he accomplish this season that has told you that he's better than Patrick Mahomes?
He led the league in QB passing rating, and he also broke the all-time leading passing yards, which is a record that is great.
But still not right now. That's a culmination of a lot of years' work. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think if you take them right now, I'd rather Patrick Mahomes, because I think when you look at the AFC, NFC championship games, who played better? Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, his team scored 31 points. The only reason we're not talking about them in the Super Bowl right now is because they lost the coin toss in overtime and his defense couldn't stop Tom Brady. And I think when you look at Drew Brees, I'm not going to say Drew Brees choked, but he definitely didn't have his best game. After going up, he had an okay game. By Drew Brees standards, it wasn't great. After the first when they went up 13-0, they had 7 drives and they scored on 2 of them. I'm from New Orleans. I think we're both from Metairie, New Orleans, whatever. I have been told my entire life that Drew Brees is the greatest quarterback ever. And no, I know you don't agree with that. But if Drew Brees is in that conversation, Drew Brees wins that game on Sunday. With or without the pass interference call, it doesn't matter. Drew Brees, there was a game before the pass interference call. There was a game after the pass interference call. And Drew Brees didn't look great in any of them.
But there's games that you don't look great. Just like last year in the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. If we're going to call Tom Brady the GOAT, he should have won the game last year against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, but that wasn't – they didn't lose the game because of him. They lost the game because their defense gave up 41 points. When I look at the Saints, they lost – who threw the interception in overtime? Drew Brees. How do you throw an interception in overtime? As a Saints fan, as a guy who trusts Drew Brees, when I see that we win the toss and we've got the ball first, I'm like, we've got Drew Brees. This is it. We're going to win. And he throws an interception. How does that happen?
I don't know, man. Just tough game. I don't know.
All right, so we got another comment here from our co-host. If Mahomes has the same or somewhere near the same productivity next year, he will become the guest. I mean that you mean greatest. I assume you mean greatest. Think it's too early to put him over Brees. But why? Why is it too early, Chris? I don't think it's ever too early. I think when you're talking about greatest of all time, yes, obviously Patrick Mahomes is not in that conversation yet because he's only had one spectacular season. But I think that spectacular season has vaulted him past Brees already. And I don't think it's all just Mahomes. I think Drew Brees, the last 6 games, has not been Drew Brees. In the last 6 games, he's thrown 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, thrown a 69% completion percentage, which his efficiency is probably his greatest asset. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
He's thrown 69% completion percentage. While that's good, it's nowhere near what Drew Brees is capable of. He's also only thrown for 215 yards a game. How do you explain that?
I don't know. Let's take it back to the Cowboys game, where everything started. I think something happened to him in that game where it's just for the rest of the season. He still looked great. To me, he's looked great, but he hasn't looked the same as he looked in the first part of the season, where he was doing awesome. And
I agree, and I think before that Dallas game, he was the runaway MVP, and after that, he just fell away, and I can't explain it. I don't know what happened, but I'm definitely putting Patrick Mahomes over him. I mean, the way he led that offense, even to be in that game, starting off down 14-0, to even go to an overtime with a Tom Brady-led Patriots team with the porous defense that he has is an incredible achievement. And don't get me wrong, what Drew Brees has done in his tenure is incredible, but I think it's time to put Patrick Mahomes at number 2. So let's actually talk about the games. We'll start with the Chiefs and the Patriots. What did you see in that game, Phil?
I saw it was a slow start in the first half for the Chiefs, but in the second half they started getting that rhythm going. And they got to the fourth quarter and 39 seconds left, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, he led his team down the field to kick a field goal and went into overtime. And the first possession of the game, like I said, we all knew who was going to win, whoever got the coin toss first. And the Patriots got the coin toss first, and they won the game, obviously.
And I think the question has to be asked now. We obviously mentioned this. Tom Brady, 41 years old now, doing incredible things like this. For the rest of his career, can we ever have him as an underdog? Because personally, I don't think we can. I think this whole season, this whole postseason, we've had him as the underdog for pretty much every game, and he has just thrown it back in our faces. How much longer can he do it for?
I don't know, but as I mentioned in other recent live streams, you can't underestimate Tom Brady. Yeah. Tom Brady he's a great quarterback and the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with this past game, and especially if he wins the Super Bowl against the Rams, I think there is absolutely no doubt that he is the greatest quarterback of all time, even though he has those 3 losses. Would you agree?
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the Saints game. I know we're all kind of disappointed. A lot of controversy there. So I think we have to talk about it. The missed pass interference call. Everyone knows it was pass interference. The guy who committed it knows it was the pass interference. And before we go on, Chris Taylor asks, who has the better Super Bowl performance, Sony Michel or Todd Gurley? Now, that's an interesting question.
Yeah,
because Todd Gurley didn't really play in the NFC Championship game, and Sony Michel has been absolutely lighting it up. So do you want to go first? Do you want to take a stab at it?
Personally, I think it's going to be Sony Michel having a better game in the Super Bowl because I think Bill Belichick, as a great of coach he is, I think he's going to dial something up to stop Todd Gurley in the Super Bowl and keep him contained. Also, it's C.J. Anderson in the backfield, but I think Sony Michel he's not going to have one of his best games, but I think he's going to have a better game than Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you there. I'm going to go with Todd Gurley if he plays. Obviously, if he doesn't play, I'll take Sony Michel. But if he plays, I think when you look at what the Rams defense has done to running backs this postseason, has been remarkable. They held Ezekiel Elliott to pretty much nothing, held Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram to 50 yards at home. I mean, that is just remarkable what they have done this postseason. So I think they're going to really have to focus on beating Brady to win the Super Bowl. So Brees' age might be catching up with him. That is a very good point because I mentioned the last 6 games, he really struggled, 6 interceptions to 7 touchdowns. Do you think his age might be catching up to him? He is 40 years old now.
I don't think his age is catching up to him because during the regular season, he kind of showed him slowing down in the second part of the season, but I don't think his age is catching up to him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to disagree. I think this might be not the beginning of the end, but I think it's the start to slope down for Drew Brees. I think he's too old. I just think he's going downhill now. I think after that Eagles game, I think he's done. I think he wanted to get that passing record, and he did it against the Redskins. I'm just not seeing it from him. He's just not as accurate. And he's not as quick. He's not as. It seems like he's not as smart almost. He's taking more time. He's holding the ball more. I just think the age is catching up with him, and it's sad to see. But to see such an iconic legend,
But if next season, if he start off to a great start and continues to does great next season, would you change your opinion about that?
About if age is catching up to him?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I just think he's getting too old. I think his height is finally starting to catch up with him. I think teams are finally starting to understand if you bring pressure up the middle, he's going to struggle because he's not very tall, which I think was a key thing in the Rams game. In the first game, they didn't have any sacks, so Breeze was able to go off. This time they had a couple sacks. It was tough for him to get the ball out. But aside from that, I think he's just not making as many accurate throws. He's not making the throws that we're used to seeing Drew Brees throw. So let's see. Chris Taylor says next season he'll prove you wrong. No doubt. Listen, I hope you're right, Chris. I hope he does prove me wrong. But the one thing he won't prove me wrong on is that Patrick Mahomes is the second best quarterback in the NFL right now. So before we were interrupted, missed pass interference call.
I honestly think if that pass interference call was called, I think the Saints will be in a Super Bowl right now. We'll be looking at a Saints versus Patriots preview. But obviously it was not called. The refs didn't feel it was a pass interference call. So
yeah, I think everyone agrees that the game would have been over. The Saints would have won. They would have taken 3 kneels and then kicked the game-winning field goal. Will Lutz, who has been efficient as all heck this season, I think there's no doubt the Saints would have won that game if the pass interference is called. But let me just talk to Saints fans right now. You guys need to stop whining, okay? Because let me say this. The pass interference call was horrendous. The worst missed call in the history of not just the NFL, of all of sports, considering the stage it was on. Absolutely terrible. But you know what? The Saints should never have even been in this situation. The Saints should never have been in this situation. Absolutely never. And we've got hashtag Will Lutz for MVP. I don't know about that one. But as I was saying, the Saints were up 13-0 in the second quarter. How do you get outscored 26-13 for the rest of the game? I think I'm embarrassed for my team, honestly. I mean, and there were things before the PI call and after the PI call that I'm embarrassed about. I mean, like I said, up 13-0, and you let them get to 20-20 and then eventually 23-23. Like, after the PI call, you've still got a great chance of winning the game. All you have to do is not let the Rams kick a field goal. That's all you have to do. And the defense couldn't do it. And then you get the ball first in overtime. At the end of the day, I think the Rams outplayed the Saints. I think the Rams maybe didn't deserve the win because of the pass interference call, actually. But I think the Rams played better than the Saints. I think the Rams were fighting an uphill battle and somehow won. I think the Saints had every single advantage in this game. The Saints were on at home, and the Rams did not have their best offensive player, and they still somehow won, even with the missed PI call. I just think I'm embarrassed. But you know what? Credit to the Rams kicker, Greg Zuerlein, because he has not been great throughout his career on long field goals, and he nailed some 57 yards. It looked like it was going wide, but unfortunately it went through. And I want to talk about the play call on that drive with the PI. What did you see from that?
On a pass interference play?
Yeah.
I just saw Drew Brees looking for Tommy Lee Lewis, which is he went out for like a wheel route, and what's his name? Roby Coleman.
Nickel Roby Coleman.
He hit Tommy Lee Lewis before the ball got to him, and the refs they looked at it. They looked directly at it and then throw no flag.
Yeah. So we got, before I say something, we got a comment. 74.4% really slowed down this season. Well, I mean, when he started off 76% and ends the season 7 points lower, yes, that is slowing down. If you start off 76%, which is pretty fast, then you go down to 69%, that is slowing down. So you should probably look at the stats. But with the PI call, as I said earlier, they should have never been in the situation because, first of all, Drew Brees threw up a Hail Mary to Ted Ginn that he somehow made an incredible play on and caught. Props to Ted Ginn, but it wasn't the best throw, but it worked out. So happy days. Anyway, first down, the Rams have 2 timeouts, and there is less than 2 minutes left, and you throw the ball. And I think that might have been the biggest play of the game because not only do you throw the ball, Drew Brees makes a terrible throw. a clutch throw. Would you say it's a clutch throw? That he doesn't make. He grounds the ball into the turf and doesn't let Michael Thomas make a catch.
Yeah.
And if he does make that catch, Michael Thomas at least runs for 5-6 yards. The Rams have to waste a timeout. It's now 2nd and 4, 1:45 left. The Rams have one timeout. And I just don't see it. And then I think you got to run the ball there, and Drew Brees has to make the throw. 2nd down, you run. They know you're running. You lose a yard. And then you throw again on 3rd down, not letting the Rams waste another timeout. I mean, I just think that's terrible. We got 2 comments here. Honestly, wasn't the greatest pass by Brees. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're referencing the Ted Ginn catch or the Michael Thomas one, but either way. And then if the corner turns around, it's an interception. Exactly. That's what I have said. I mean, Tommy Lee Lewis was open. Drew Brees was actually late on the throw. And Nickel Roby-Coleman admitted after the game he saw Tommy Lee Lewis was open. So he just ran over to hit him and make sure that Tommy Lee Lewis wouldn't score. He knew he was going to get a pass interference call and somehow didn't get it. It's ridiculous. And the referees should be blamed, but I think the Saints should be blamed more. But with that, we are at the end of the Saints season. Sadly. But we've got an off season ahead of us. Still a great team. Still looking forward to next season. We've got great aspirations for next season. Who do you think the Saints should maybe keep as opposed to letting walk, or maybe sign from another team? Do you have anybody in mind?
Not really. I think during the season we were trying to make a move on Patrick Peterson. I would like to still pursue that move to get Patrick Peterson, because Patrick Peterson would be, if you agree with me, a huge upgrade from Eli Apple. And Patrick Peterson will help our defense a whole lot. So.
Yeah, and I think when you partner him with Marshawn Lattimore, Marshawn Lattimore's been, since probably the first week of the season where he really struggled against the Buccaneers, he's really been one of the best corners in the league. And I think if you pair him with Patrick Peterson, that's going to be really, really good. And I don't have a particular player in mind for the Saints, but I think whether it's through the draft, whether it's through free agency, we need more depth at wide receiver. I think we absolutely need more depth at wide receiver, because that was one of our downfalls towards the end of the season. You saw, Brees was pretty much throwing passes to Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, and that was about it. I think if we get some depth at wide receiver, obviously Des Bryant will be coming back and Ted Ginn will be healthy next year. I think that'll really help the Saints. So as the Saints, their season is over, we are going to end it off. Favorite moment from this season, Phil?
My favorite moment is probably the play that Drew Brees broke the record to passing it to Tre'Quan Smith for a long touchdown to break the record, becoming the most passing yards in history.
Yeah, that was a great moment. If I had to pick one, I'm going to say when we beat the Rams, when we actually did beat the Rams. In Week 9 to take away their undefeated streak, when Mike Thomas took out the phone from under the goalpost. That was just such an incredible time to be a Saints fan. I know we were all excited, thought pretty much it was over. We were going to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it didn't end up that way, but maybe next season, maybe Drew Brees can pick it back up next season. And so for JRNOLA, as the Saints season comes to a close, I am Wyatt Vaughn. This is
Phillip.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week with a Super Bowl preview. Thank you guys for watching.